Namaste, everybody. So, on this channel, we are dedicated to bringing the coolest people around, maybe the coolest people on the planet for conversations. And I believe we've got one today for you. We have legendary conservationist, aka the Snake Man of India, Mr. Rom Whitaker. Rom, thank you for coming on the show. I want to say it's a huge honor for me personally to get a chance to speak with you like this. So a big welcome. So, firstly, Rom, I mean, you're known as the Snake Man of India. I wanna know, like, what was your early experiences like that gave you this love of, well, the natural world, but in especially, snakes and reptiles.
Well, it started very young. Um, I was raised by my single mother, who raised me and my sister in a little village called Hoosick, not in India, in New York State, northern New York State. And there I brought home a snake. And my mother said, "Wow, how gorgeous." Now, which mother in the world would say that to a kid bringing home a snake? I mean, but yeah, so that's really where it started. And she encouraged me all the way. Luckily, she knew there weren't any venomous snakes in the area we lived in northern New York State. So that was a plus point.
Yeah, it's really funny actually. I was thinking about that. Like her reaction, it's almost like this incredible butterfly effect, about the fact that she gave this positive response and that led to all of
Absolutely.
this
Absolutely.
this whole future, isn't it? It's incredible. So yeah, I mean, obviously you ended up deeply involved with the wildlife in India. Your life took you there with your family and so on.
Yeah.
So how did that happen? Like, can you give us a brief history of that?
I'll give you a brief one. Yeah, my stepfather, Rama Chattopadhyaya, married my mother, and we moved to India in 1951 when I was 8 years old. And yeah, Rama was an incredible man himself. He had graduated from Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the States in film technology and came to India and set up a color motion picture processing lab, one of the very first, the beginning of Bollywood. This is the
Mm.
early 1950s, okay?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's how I managed to get to India, and well, I've been here ever since, except for a brief stint when I tried to go to college in America, but I rushed back, having flunked that out.
Yes. And if any of you listening want to get a deeper look at Rom's fascinating life, I would recommend highly. The link is in the description. He's got a book, Snakes, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. Amazing name for a book, Rom, I have to say. Um, and yeah, get the book. It's really, really fascinating. So, Rom, one thing that you're famous for, and it's a very incredible story, this, it's about the Irula tribe in India. Could you
Yeah.
explain what that is for people who don't know and how you got involved? And it's quite incredible, actually. So I'll let you explain.
Yeah, it's a good story in every way because it was in the late 60s. I had set up a small venom lab in Bombay, now Mumbai, of course. And I was traveling around the country collecting snakes. And I ended up in Madras, now Chennai, where, I mean, I had been in school in Tamil Nadu, the state of Tamil Nadu, and I had learned Tamil. And it was kind of my second home. So I got down there and I ran into this Irula tribe. The Irulas are an incredible tribe because they are still hunter gatherers, many of them. I mean, now things have vastly changed since those days, of course. But they concentrated and specialized in catching snakes for the skins. That, of course, I wasn't really in favor of. I mean, I didn't. I understood this is their livelihood, and in any animal, if it's being used sustainably, it's an okay thing to do. But then the government of India banned the catching of snakes, the killing of snakes for their skins, in the mid '70s, and these Irulas had helped me set up the Madras Snake Park. It was the first reptile park in South Asia. And the Irulas were absolutely indispensable in helping me get this started because they knew where to find the snakes. So now that their skin industry was closed, many of them were destitute. And we had to figure out some other way for them to make a living. So we came up with this idea of catching snakes, venomous snakes, extracting their venom, selling the venom to make antivenom serum, and then releasing the snakes back to the wild. To be honest with you, at first, the forest department, the authorities didn't quite believe it, and they didn't want to give permission for this kind of thing. No, no, these guys are poachers. They're not going to, follow the rules and all that. But they had to, and it worked beautifully. The Irula Snake Catchers Cooperative was set up and started working in 1982, and to this day, it supplies most of the venom being used to make antivenom. And this, I mean, they honestly don't perhaps realize how important they are, but they're saving literally tens of thousands of human lives from snakebite in India, thanks to their skill in finding snakes. They are an incredible bunch of people.
That is incredible. I put that through AI. I says, estimate how many lives have been saved
Oh,
through this with the Irulas, and they said, listen, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of lives, and not only that, you know, as you know, isn't it, with snake bites, with venomous snake bites, people end up losing limbs,
yeah,
fingers, all those lives that have been protected from what you did with the Irulas. It's truly incredible. We can't really even know the effect that that's had. So it's just amazing what you've done there.
well, I'm just a piece in the puzzle because it's the Urlas who are doing the main work.
So Rom, I mean, you also got into conservation of reptiles and crocodiles. Sorry, I wanted to say. In particular, India has a crocodile, the Gharial crocodile. I want you to explain to us about this special crocodile, the plight that the crocodile was in
Yeah,
because of the development that was taking place in India.
yeah. Well, if you look above my head, there's a painting done by a friend of ours of a gharial. This is the weirdest of all the crocodiles. In fact, I've even called it the crocodile from Mars because it's got this long, long, slender snout, like a dolphin, with rows and rows of sharp teeth, because it's a fish eater. And to be able to snap fish up with that long beak is just perfect for him. But unfortunately, they are a crocodile which requires clear, clean rivers. And clear, clean rivers are not usually available nowadays in India. The famous Jamuna, the famous Ganga rivers, big sections of those rivers are totally polluted, and gharial are unable to live there. But there's one river called the Chambal, and that's famous for the Chambal ravines and the famous dacoits who used to terrorize the Chambal. It is a clean river, and this is where gharial are still, they're still strong, strong populations are still there. So it was very important to figure out what was happening to them. And in the early 1970s, I got a grant from the World Wildlife Fund, which had just started in India, to do some surveys of North Indian rivers. And that's where we figured out gharial are in very, very bad trouble, and there's perhaps only a couple of hundred left. This is on the brink of extinction. So we made quite a bit of noise, and published articles, and you know went and met government officials, and the gharial really started to get some attention. And luckily, the government of India started a crocodile project, very much like Project Tiger, again in the 70s. And over the years, it's done a remarkable job. We were instrumental also. We pushed that very hard to do this. And the gharials are back in the Chambal. There's a couple of thousand of them there now, and this is an amazing success story. But it's still a bit rough on them because the Chambal River flows through some of the driest parts of India, and there's continual need for drawing water from the river for agriculture, for people's survival. So you've got to balance things out for the animals as well as for the people.
Yeah. That's a big challenge, isn't it? I wonder what your view is because, even in my lifetime over the last 10 years when I've been to India, it's the development is rapid. There's a huge amount of urbanization going on, a huge population. I mean, how do you see conservation in India? Because obviously India has incredible natural world, the rainforest and so on. How do you see what do you see the future is for conservation in India? How is the situation? What are we doing good? What are we doing not so good?
Well, you've got a couple of hours for this, I hope, because yeah, literally, we've got big problems facing the country and big problems. We've still got a huge population of human beings who are living below the poverty line. We've really got to look after them. At the same time, they also depend on the natural resources, the biodiversity of India, and that is there's a lot of consciousness now. That's the wonderful thing about India. Uh, Back when I was starting out in the sort of late 60s, early 70s, there was very little conservation consciousness, which has become big now. So people are aware and really try to do what is necessary to keep something intact, to keep our forests intact, for example. But yes, there is a big push for development, and it's very much up to our government to control things and do things in the right way. It's a difficult and very, very hard sort of balance to reach, but we're doing a pretty good job. But there are some very, very dangerous things happening, which really bug the hell out of us. But it's really something that we just have to keep fighting to make sure that things improve. So if that sort of gives you a feeling of a bit of helplessness, because
Mm.
we do have to develop the country, very obviously, but it's got to be done in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I know. So you've got this Agumbe rainforest project where you won some awards, wasn't it? That helped fund that project, right? With Rolex and
Well,
so on.
well, first of all, it was the Whitley Fund for Nature, based right there in the UK,
Ah,
and that was the incredible thing. I mean, it blew me away that they would be able to give me this much money to set up something that I had dreamed of doing. So we did manage to get a small piece of land, which is surrounded by rainforest, and set up this Agumbe Rainforest Research Station. Okay, my obsession was always for king cobras. I can't deny that. And one, strangely enough, Agumbe uh, is the capital, the king cobra capital, as far as I'm concerned, of India. They're actually fairly common there. Whereas in the rest of India, when anyone sees a king cobra, well, out comes a big stick, or everyone gets very frightened of it and tries to kill it or chase it away at least. But I look at king cobras as a very innocent creature who knows how dangerous human beings are and knows how to stay away from human beings. So you never, almost ever, hear of anyone ever being bitten by a king cobra.
mm,
They're a big snake. They're diurnal and they hang around in the daytime. They don't hang around at night. They go to sleep at night. So they don't get stepped upon the way little vipers and cobras do. So it's not, I mean, it is potentially a very dangerous snake, but I like the word innocent.
yeah, and because you've been observing the cobras, haven't you, in their habitat? Have you what's can you give us a sense a little bit maybe of their personality, things that we don't know? Because obviously, for people like me, we hear king cobra, we all we know is it's the world's largest venomous snake, got enough poison to kill an elephant. So we can't. It's hard to imagine a creature more terrifying in a way. One wrong move
Yeah.
and you're cooked, aren't you? So, but give us an insight into their life.
Well, yeah, the way we got the insights that we have about king cobras was doing something called radiotelemetry, and that is putting a little tiny transmitter inside the body of a king cobra, and then following it around with very intrepid followers, of course, trackers, going through the forest, following them, and you get a beep, beep, beep from that through your earphones, and you know exactly where the snake is going. Luckily, king cobras sort of wake up at a reasonable time, 6 or 7 in the morning, and go to sleep at a reasonable time at 6 o'clock or so when the sun goes down. Otherwise, you'd have these guys tracking the snakes beep, beep, beep all night long. So, in that way, we got a lot of wonderful young people involved in this whole tracking, radio tracking of king cobras, and learned so much about them. One thing about them, like I said earlier, and I keep emphasizing this, they do know how dangerous human beings are, and they keep well out of human beings' way. When you go to the forest, and even if you're expecting or want to see a king cobra, it's very unlikely to see it because they see you first and they get out of the way and stay hidden. And they don't want anything to do with us. So that is probably a general rule of all king cobras. So, yeah, they are potentially very dangerous. And yet, no one gets bitten, no one gets killed by them. So,
Yeah, I mean, majority of snake bites, would you say it's like people in rural areas in the dark, they've accidentally stepped on a venomous snake? Is that mainly how it seems to happen?
yeah, that's one of the main reasons, the main ways it happens. Okay, I'll just give you a brief intro to this whole snake bite thing in India. We have what we termed a long time ago the big four venomous snakes of India: the cobra, the krait, a nocturnal snake, the Russell's viper, and the little saw-scale viper. So these are the four snakes that cause most of the very bad bites, the fatal bites, and the ones that cripple people. There are other snakes. We've got 4 species of cobras and 9 species of kraits in the country. So there are other snakes which cause bites, but these four are the main ones. And for these four, an antivenom is made. Now, okay, there's 2 things now: prevention and treatment. Prevention is the number one rule and number one lesson we're trying to get across to people, because then there's no question of how you treat it or where you treat it or how fast you have to get to a hospital. Prevention means using a light at night when you're walking and sleeping under a mosquito net, which also saves you from malaria and dengue, and it would save you from a snake bite. And when people are working in the field, they have to be aware and have to look where they're walking and use a stick perhaps to move aside brush and use different kind of implements to harvest crops. So we're doing education programs along these lines, and I think we're making some headway. But people, I'll just give you an example about the basic thing about using a light at night. I was at the Madras Crocodile Bank many, many years ago, and I woke up in the middle of the night because the dog was barking. And it was out in our backyard. And, it's your backyard, so you just jump off the steps and walk. You don't have to have a light because it's your backyard, right?
Mm.
So I walked off the steps to shut up the dog, and I stepped on something round and firm, and it hissed like a pressure cooker. I had just stepped on a Russell's viper, and I was in my lungi, in my sarong, and barefoot. And for some reason or the other, the snake didn't bite me. He may have struck and missed or something. But man, what a lesson. I mean, if I had just taken a torch with me, it wouldn't have happened. And we've
Mm.
interviewed a lot of people who have gotten bitten by, particularly Russell's vipers. And it's invariably the same thing. A farmer would say, I go to turn my pump on for my paddy field every night, and I've been doing it for 20 years, walking along this path. And one night, so why should I take a life? That's the argument. And one night I stepped on a Russell's viper. This poor fellow actually lost his leg because he was bitten by a Russell's viper. So this happens. And it's just, people have got to realize that you have to use a light at night. It will probably save 50% of the bites that happen.
Right. I mean, you've been handling venomous snakes all your life. I mean, you've been bitten a few times. Can you give us some war stories? And not only that, actually, Rom, it's true, isn't it? You are also allergic to anti-venom at, at a certain point, so
Yeah,
which makes the whole thing even more hair-raising.
it does. Yeah. Okay. Horse serum, antivenom serum is made from by immunizing horses. And a certain percentage of human beings are allergic to horse serum, and a certain percentage are hyperallergic. And I just happen to be one of those guys. That was just my bad luck. So I try not to get bitten. I mean, okay, I had, in my younger years, in my sort of over brave years and maybe stupid years, you could say, I did get bitten a few times. And it is an experience to remember, and it's nothing to be proud of because you were stupid, clumsy, any number of adjectives you can use as to why and how you got bitten. But it was stupidity and clumsiness.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. You were saying that you've got a section of the book that you'd want to read about this very thing. If you'd like to do that now, that'd be kind of awesome. From the snakes, drugs, and rock and roll. Could we do
Yeah,
that?
I'll do that. I'll do
That'd be
that.
great. Yeah.
Okay, this section is from a time, yeah, it was 1967, and I had finished my academic and my military career in the United States, and I had to make $500 to get back to India to get a ship ticket. So I caught snakes and sold them to zoos, and I was out in the Huachuca Mountains of Arizona hunting for rattlesnakes. Okay, and this is how it went. I walked carefully across a massive rock slide, alert for the soft buzz of a small rattlesnake. At the first sound of one, I excavated the rocks, but the rattle grew fainter. The snake had retreated inside. I had to be faster next time. Careful not to start a landslide, I made my way across the rocks. Another snake disappeared under a flat rock. On lifting the stone, I caught sight of a slate gray coil near my hand. Too late! The small lance-shaped head of a green rock rattler shot out and bit deep into my left thumb. You dumb shit, I berated myself. My thumb burnt like a hot iron drilling into flesh. This was no dry bite. Although in pain, I wanted the snake, so I grabbed it with my tongs and dumped it into a bag. Not knowing how bad the snake bite was going to be, I didn't waste any time at that remote spot and retraced my steps for the 3-hour hike back to Nell's barn, where I was staying. Exhausted from the agony, I slumped beside a stream and drank deeply. I made an improvised sling with a snake bite for my throbbing hand and rested in the shade of a tree for a few minutes. The swollen thumb had turned blue like an overripe fruit, stiffened and oozed fluid from the puncture wound. I wiped it with a damp handkerchief and tied it loosely around the bite to keep the flies away. My small medical kit contained no painkillers. I did, however, have a small stash of marijuana. I tamped a thimbleful into a corncob pipe for a smoke. The familiar high took the edge off the agony. I felt better enough to continue on my way. About a mile later, I began sneezing non-stop, which made me even more tired. Then my armpits, crotch, and head started itching. I had no time to dwell on this new unfamiliar symptoms of an allergic reaction to the venom. The distance passed in a blur. The sneezing abated, but I continued to scratch it as if bedeviled by fleas. A parked car stood at Nell's yard, and the sound of people's voices came from the house. If her guests saw my puffy face with a snotty nose, while I scratched my privates like an uncouth simpleton, they would run a mile. I stumbled behind the barn without being spotted, and sat under an apple tree, with my back resting against the trunk. Sweat trickled from my brow, and my shirt was damp. The swelling had now reached the elbow. A deep, dull ache that throbbed with my pulse replaced the burning pain. I peeked around the barn. The car had left. I knocked at the door and told Nell about my might. My swollen arm concerned her, and she urged me to leave for the hospital. The nearest one at Bisbee was an hour's drive away, and my last excruciating experience at another hospital lingered in my memory. It was a tiny snake, I assured her. It couldn't be dangerous. The swelling had stopped, and it's not even painful anymore. I'll be fine. It doesn't look good, she said. Anyway, you better stay in the house. After we had a sumptuous meal of deer steak and baked potatoes, she pointed out to her guest room. At night, I got up in the pitch dark to take a leak, but I lost my balance and fell down. I was blind. 100 worries assailed me as I lay there. I should have taken Nell's advice and gone to the hospital. Now it's too late. Should I call for help? Am I dying? Nell hadn't seen my face on her window panes, so I must be all right. I smiled at the thought. Should I ask her to drive me to Bisbee? I had already worried her enough. I sat upright, paralyzed by fear and uncertainty. About an hour later, my vision started returning, like an old TV set warming up. The nightlight and the furniture were blurred at first, and then they came into sharper focus. Unsteadily, I stood up and leaned against the wall, waiting for my balance to return. I staggered into the bathroom, and then I returned to bed. I woke up to bird song and the morning sun streaming in through the window. Ooh.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Do you feel that being bitten by a venomous snake, because there's all kinds of like mythology, like snakes are deeply intertwined with the human consciousness, aren't they? In all religions and everything. They hold a very special place for us. You know, I know some people they've got a belief about the venom that it has some kind of effect in the body that long term has an effect on their consciousness, maybe in a positive way. Do you feel like it's kind of changed you, like having those bites for those snakes on a deeper level, apart from just the obvious reaction you had to it, or
Ah, that's a good question. I hadn't actually thought of that before. Um, Certainly not as much as the my experiences with various hallucinogens have changed my.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
that's another story.
that's another
But
thing.
the thing is, in India, the amount of mythology and stories about snakes is just unbelievable.
Yeah,
And that is unfortunate in the sense that when these people are bitten, very often they'll go for any other kind of treatment but the real treatment. The only cure for a snake bite is antivenom, of course, but most people go to a local faith healer or a mantra person, chanting something or doing some religious ritual. And all these things are very dangerous because you're losing time. You're not getting to the hospital in time. So we keep trying to tell people, look, snake bite is a medical emergency. No time for chanting and all this kind of stuff. You've got to get to a hospital. So this is one of our main lessons that we're preaching.
yeah. If you want to hear about Rom's psychedelic experiences, this is also in the book. I think you talk about taking peyote, wasn't it, back there in the US? I mean,
Yeah.
that I don't think you get that in India, do you? Peyote cactus.
No, no,
No.
unfortunately.
I think in India, what do you got? Just bang lassi, charas.
Yeah, well, what's wonderful about bhang is that it's not illegal, and
Hmm.
as charas and ganja are, and grannies and everybody else on Holi in many parts of the
Yeah.
country, particularly North India, they'll take a bang lassi, for example, or some
Yeah.
bang sweets and get completely zonked, and it's perfectly
Yeah.
okay.
Yes. Holy Mahashivratri. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Rum, so right now you've got the Madras Crocodile Bank, you've got the Rainforest Research Station. Could you talk a little bit about some projects that are going on right now for people watching?
Yeah. Uh, for one thing, the Madras Crocodile Bank is a pretty sensational place because we get almost 500,000, 5 lakhs of visitors every year there. And this is probably the first time they're getting a positive view of reptiles. They go there, and of course, the immediate impression, oh, crocodiles, oh, snakes, and this and that. But they go there and see the people who work there and are very casual about things. And we have got a good education officer, and any of the employees, the way the ladies jump over the wall into the crocodile pen, and they'll have a broom in one hand and a stick in the other, and they're cleaning up. And if a crocodile gets too close, just tap it slightly on the nose and it goes. And people are amazed to see this. Aren't these ladies scared? Wow, they've been doing it for years and years. They know what to do. So, yeah, the Croc Bank is a wonderful education place. The Agumbe Rainforest Research Station, we have a lot of visitors there, but it's primarily for researchers. And we have another program on the Chumbal River called the Gharial Ecology Project, run by a colleague of mine called Dr. Jeffrey Lang. And he's one of the world's top croc biologists, and we're really lucky to have him on board because, like I told you earlier, we were talking about the gharial and its very precarious status. And now to learn more about animals is just so important in order to pass this information on to the authorities who are really in charge of creating protected areas. One thing I didn't mention earlier about the gharial is that it's a species, well, it's tied to rivers and it's tied to being able to travel up and down the great lengths of the river. And we use the same sort of radio telemetry to follow them. And sometimes they've traveled as much as 100 kilometers along the river. And it's just an amazing thing to realize how far an animal travels for feeding in one place and then going back to the nesting grounds in another place, 100 kilometers away. It's just incredible.
So cool. That's really cool. Um, so this maybe is coming a little bit of out of left field, but you've been in this game, you've been doing these missions for all your life. For the next generation of conservationists, people who are working with the natural world, trying to preserve the natural world, what would you do? You have a message for them? Maybe something where you think they should be focusing on, or just to give them some advice and some inspiration for their work.
Well, the primary inspiration I can give them is that if they are locked on to doing something like this, that is in itself the greatest thing as far as I'm concerned, the greatest thing in the world. This field that we're in is the most interesting, the most exciting thing a person can do, whether it's a photographer for wildlife, or whether it's research for wildlife, or whether it's down to earth conservation of wildlife. And it's just so exciting. And there's something brand new popping up every single minute. We know so little. And, we think we know a lot. I mean, there's lots of books, and I've published lots of papers, made some films, this and that. We've just scratched the surface of what's amazing that I'm seeing right now is that people are getting into the real depths of the ocean and finding out stuff that we had no clue existed. And I can't remember the figures, but we only know about not even 20% of all the insect life, for example, in the world. Yeah, birds, we know most of them probably, but insects, no. There's still a vast number of things to find out. And what's threatening them, or how we are threatening them, that is what we've got to find out, and that's what we've got to do something about. Yeah.
That's awesome. I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about your life, and uh, what I what I feel is that you really followed your passion or what was really in your heart, Because that's so many times, you could have gone in this direct, you worked as a salesman, you worked in, you were drafted in the army and so on. But I felt like you stuck with what was in your heart, even through the rough times, let's say, maybe money wasn't coming, whatever, at certain times.
Yeah,
But it's incredible the impact that that's had in the world, the positive impact. And I don't think it was even necessarily intentional. Like the Irulas and all of that stuff is like the universe kind of aligned uh, to a greater purpose.
yeah. No, that's very nice of you to say that because I believe very strongly in that. When you have a sort of focus and when you have something you want to do, everything else sort of just falls into place. And
Yeah.
like you say, I didn't really think all these things and plan all these things out. I just went from one thing to the next, but with a very, very straight interest. I mean, the snakes were the number one interest, but that, of course, went off into reptiles like crocodiles and turtles and tortoises. So, but it was definitely one path all the way.
It's beautiful. Yes, inspirational for me and for anybody listening, I feel, to follow what's in your own heart. So
Absolutely.
anyway, that's it. The book, please buy the book. Snakes, Jokes, and
Yeah.
Rock and Roll. I think there's a part two and a part three coming out soon, inshallah. Um,
Yes.
yeah, which would be great. Um, yeah, please buy the book. Support Madras Crocodile Bank. Support. I'll put all of Rom's details in the description so you can follow what he's doing and support the amazing work that he's dedicated his life to.
Thanks a lot,
So
Shiv. That's
no
great.
problem, no problem. It was really an honor to meet you, sir. And yeah, all the best with all the projects in the future.
Thanks so much. Let's keep
Thank you.
in touch.
Yes, yes, yes. Take care.